Welcome back to Stutter Chats. As today we have a special guest, someone who has been a high school football coach for the past 34 years. He has also won 6 state championships, and also he's a school administrator. Welcome, Rob, into our podcast. How we did today?
Actually, it's hurt.
Oh, hurt my
HURT.
hurt my
That's okay.
bad. Huh?
Common mistake.
Yeah. But I'm gonna call you. We're gonna call you Coach.
That's okay. I'm used
Uh,
to that.
Yeah, so Coach, I appreciate you taking your time out of your day. I know you're a busy guy coaching the kids and stuff like that. But I just want to go into the first question. When did you realize that you had a stutter, and how did it lead you to become a coach?
Well, I wouldn't say it led me to, but I was a young boy. My father was a physician, and at about the age of 6, I had to get my tonsils out. Well, I knew then that I had somewhat of a speech issue. Okay, if I will. Well, I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to get my tonsils out, and I'm kind of going to be cured of this. And so that happened, and you know, obviously that didn't work. Um, and then I remember asking if my dad at the time. Said my dad was a uh, uh, physician and a surgeon, and and in general practice as well. And I remember asking him, well, Dad, I thought this was going to help me talk better, type thing. And I can't recall his answer. He probably just gave me a hug knowing him and like, okay, you'll be okay. But um, no, I knew at a very, very young age that I just always wanted to just be involved in sports. Somehow the coaching probably was more thing. I always had that dream of possibly being on ESPN to,
Hmm.
being a broadcaster, but obviously the stutter, you know, hold you back. But I knew that I wanted something, that I knew that I loved sports. I loved everything about it. So what happened was after college, I received a track and field scholarship to a school in Indiana, and I got hurt there, and I left there, and I'm coming back to school up here in, in Michigan, and then I ended up I ended up jumping on at a local high school because I just wanted to coach, and I started out actually, I really wanted to be a basketball coach. That was kind of my thing, and I started out as an assistant freshman coach. I mean, as low as you can possibly get, and I just kind of went there. Well, then after doing that, then I coached some track, and then I got into to football, and I just with football, I just fell in love with the Friday Night Lights and
Hmm.
the whole chess match of the game of football, and I just kind of rode with that. I've been at 3 different schools. The first school, I was a defensive coordinator. I didn't really work out so well, and I got let go there. And then I ended up going to a powerhouse here in Michigan, which is where we're good enough to win 6 state titles, actually 5 in a row. One game we actually won in uh, uh, 5 overtimes, so that was kind of
Wow,
cool.
that's
Yeah, that
insane.
was kind of cool. So I know I kind of went a little broad on that,
No,
but yeah, that's kind of.
that's
Thank you.
awesome, man. No, I love sports. I'm a huge fan of sports. I played high school football, I played high school basketball, high school baseball, played college baseball and all that stuff. But but yeah, so as you were stating, like how you want to be a broadcaster, why don't we start our own ESPN here and talk about sports? Right?
We should be good. I mean, it's just. sports is just a common denominator. It's what brings
It does.
people close. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Coach, I got a question for you, man.
Yeah,
Uh,
Brian.
so you answered one of my questions. Sports is a common denominator. Um, what is it like giving a pregame speech or calling plays with a stutter? And then what coach inspired you, I guess?
Well, the pregame speech. My trick is, and I'll be honest with you guys. The thing that it really, really helps me is volume. Uh, I'm loud. When I'm loud, I'm as fluent as you can all get out. I mean, and I've also learned I might have a day when I'm not fluent, but if I have to make an adjustment, to give me that marker, and doggone it, I'm getting it done. I don't care. You know what I mean? So, even now you guys can tell I'm getting louder, and that's just one thing that has really helped me. When I first started coaching football, and the other thing is too, like, because I still do a little bit of uh, middle middle school basketball, but if you get the marker out on the board, it kind of takes it off of you, and you can do a little bit more. But when I first started with the football, I was an offensive coordinator. I was offensive coordinator at a freshman level. So this is back when you had to say the play,
Mhm.
and then the kid ran it out there and ran it. And that was a little. There were times I was caught. I'm not gonna lie, but again, I was loud and I was so into it at times that things were going. But then as my career evolved, I went to the uh, defensive side to the ball, and and the good thing about calling on the defensive side is everything's hand signals.
That's I agree.
So it was like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. I could tap my head, I can grab my head, I could do this, I I mean, so that kind of took away from it because everything was all hand signals. So that obviously helped. More recently, I've kind of I'm like the old guy on our staff now. I started out as the 19-year-old. Now I'm the older one. I'm in the box, but again, I'm in the box on headsets. But again, the volume, because
Yeah, a
I
lot of
talk
talking.
loud, and it really, there's times that I have issues. I just it's that's one thing I tell a lot of people. Volume works really, really well for me. It's like whenever I have to give like a speech or presentation here at school, they hand me a microphone. I'm like, I'm good because I can just talk. I can just talk
That's awesome.
louder. And I think, well, it's just like everybody says when you don't stutter when you sing. I think it's the same thing when you're talking louder,
That makes
and that's
sense.
what's really helped me. Rather than being soft. But there's other times too, like when we whisper, we talk better
Yeah.
too, as you guys know. But coach that's inspired me. Um, wow, there's been so many. I mean, I probably, I was a big Bobby Knight fan, growing up. Obviously, Mike Ditka. Um, I have a high school coach here in town who hired me that I really inspire. I have a defensive coordinator I worked for that I really liked. Tony Dungy, just the way for the man of faith that he
Mhm.
is really inspired me a lot. But I just that there's so many, and I've worked for what 4 or 5, yeah, 4, 5 or 6 different head coaches, and you take something from every one of them, that you use. So I wouldn't really say that there's any one. I just there's just some that really inspired me. I know you know like I said, Bobby Knight was good. And aside from it, the language, the man did a lot of good things for people that people don't understand.
Yeah.
And but I'm a big Chicago Bears fan. Mike Ditka was real big too. So
Awesome.
yeah,
And but no, I just want to bounce off that because have you ever met a player that studied? Because when I played um, football, I was a quarterback. So man,
Yep.
calling those plays,
Yep.
I had to have my running back call the plays for us because man, I
Yep.
was getting in the heat of the moment. I was getting stuck. I was like, I had to adjust, and then the running back needs to had to talk for me. Have you ever met a player that stuttered?
Um, as far as a professional player, or as far as the kids, I've actually
Yeah,
coached.
yeah. You actually coached.
No, actually, I really haven't had too many that I can really think of. I take that back. I did have one, a defensive lineman. See, that's one thing. You know, we all have our own blocks. Mine is D. Okay, so my title at school is Dean of Students, and then I'm a defensive line coach. So I struggle with that. But one of my uh, defensive linemen, yeah, probably about 12 years ago too. He had one, and we never really talked about it. I'd never really wanted to bring that up to him. Looking back, I wish I would have. Just to kind of know about it. But he was okay. He did all right with it. He struggled at times, but for the most part, he was okay.
That's cool, man. And FYI, we're dropping a interview next week with a football player that stutters. He plays for the Cardinals, so you want to check that out.
Okay,
Yeah, it'll be dropping next Monday.
okay,
So I'll send you
yeah.
the link so
I
you check
know.
it out.
I've Chris Zorich, who played for Notre Dame and for the Bears. Um uh he's third, and I kind of I kind of connected with him one time on Twitter, and we kind of went back and forth, and he gave me some good advice. The big thing was, and I think it's true for all of us. I think you guys can relate to this. Is once he became confident in what he was doing, and confident, and he said his stutter would just go away. And just like what I was saying, like if I have a marker and I need to make a halftime adjustment, I'm confident and doggone it, this is coming out and it's coming out good, and we're gonna do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, so coach, so it's, just want to bounce off that. So I have a question for you. As a coach, I've coached kids in baseball, and I'll go with you. Once you raise your voice higher, I do not stutter as much. And once you're in the moment, you don't stutter as much either. But I, I know there's times that we still face challenges, even though because it's part of us, we're gonna stutter no matter what. We can't
right.
control it. What was the biggest challenge when you were coaching, and how did you handle that?
My biggest challenge is probably, do you mean as far as with speaking?
Yeah, like with pretty much like with the players. And have you ever had an has your stutter ever interrupted how you talk to your players, or like how you handle situations? And
Yeah, I probably the hardest part is probably, you know, introducing yourself. I
uh
mean, you guys understand that.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
It's introducing yourself to the team. Um, Banquets, I've done a few. Some, I'll be honest with you, some I've skipped because I don't like doing it. Um, and I just was recently I I was nominated for the Michigan High School Football Coaches Association Hall of Fame.
awesome, man, congrats.
Thanks, but I was nominated. You could be in a pool for 10 years, but the sad part about this, gentlemen, is the first thing that came to my mind was, I'm gonna have to give a speech. You know what I
uh,
mean? And And it's just so that I can do everything good with everything else, but it's just those things, like when I've been on staffs and after practice, the head coach will say, "Okay, I want to hear from every coach." How they thought that day went. Well, of course, the anxiety goes up, as we all know. We
Of
know what that
course.
feeling's like. But I tend to do okay. But there's been times that it hasn't come out, you know, like it should. But again, if I go to my volume, but then sometimes even that is really, it doesn't really go as well as it should.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
in
yeah, so
those
that's an obstacle.
and in those moments, how do the players approach that? How do the players react to that?
I think, I think they're okay. I'd probably ignore if there's any, I mean, obviously I'm not dumb to know that there hasn't been in my 34 years or 20 that there hasn't been some stickering and some mockery and,
Of course.
I mean, it's just
It
the
is what it
way
is.
the world is. It's like everybody says, it's the only really, disability that people still to make fun of,
Yeah,
so, and it's sad, but
it's true.
and, and and I think a lot of it is that with stuttering, you, I mean, we all know there's days you're like, holy cow, I'm having the best day of my life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then there's other days you're like, I can't get a word out.
hmm
Where if you're, let's just say someone in a wheelchair, you're not going to get up and run. So that's why
Yeah, yeah,
that's why this disability is so unique. Is that it's like wow. I mean, but yeah. So the players, from what I know, I think they've always been somewhat accepting. I think they just more or less, hey, he's got an issue, whatever. They might make fun of me in a fun way. I don't know.
yeah, yeah,
I think sometimes we're too sensitive about it.
yeah. No, for
Maybe
sure.
they're when they're out partying with their buddies, they're making fun of me in a fun way.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. Yeah. But I just want to go back. One more question, Brandon.
Yeah,
I go you
No,
after
go
Brandon.
ahead, go ahead.
But
no,
it's because I could relate to you because in the coaching way, I've always like in baseball, I want to say I want to run this play in this base. Have you ever adjusted a, a play call because on that day I couldn't say the D's, you couldn't say the A's? Have you ever
I,
adjusted?
I don't think I don't think I've ever gotten to that point because as I said, I mean, even now, like I said, I coach some middle school basketball. I don't think I've ever really now. I might have had trouble with it with the girl's name if it was like Alexis or something. I
Mm,
might change the name or
yeah,
something. I don't. I really haven't had that much to the point. I
mm,
mean, I really think a numbering system,
okay,
or like you could call an out of bounds play. You could call it X, or you can do
true.
something like that. I think as long as you do that. But as far as with football, again, I never really, being a defensive coach and having so many hand signals, I never really had to do a whole lot of that.
Yeah,
I mean,
makes sense.
and one thing too, I will tell you one thing that has really helped too with when you wear, when you wear a headset and you hear everything back into it, it really, it seems to really help you.
Yeah, yeah,
I remember back in the day, remember when there was that one machine called the speakeasy
yeah.
or something
Speakeasy.
that you
Yeah,
went in your ear and it was supposed to
yeah,
help
yeah.
you be fluent? Just another gimmick that we all probably didn't.
Yeah, we all tried it one time.
Right, right. We've all tried it because we've all tried everything out there, you know.
Yeah.
But I know.
Coach, I got
Yeah.
a question for you, man.
Sure, man.
Um, what has how has stuttering made you a better coach? Like, what what values or what tips or what how has it made you a better coach? I'll ask you that.
I think first and foremost,
Mm,
it's made me humble. because, I had a lot of success as an athlete myself, and then as and then in coaching. But I also think that it makes me understand, that kids and people, everybody has an issue. Everybody's not going to get it. Just because I know how this play goes, or I know how this goes. Well, but I it makes me, I guess, probably more compassionate and empathetic that I can help these kids because it's not going to come easy. You know, I mean, because I struggled with this, but I think if anything, it's really made me humble because it's just, like I said, there's something we can't buy, we can't, you can't do. It's just, just kind of grounded me, but also has helped me, realize that, talking, it, it's difficult for me. So then these other things will be difficult for these kids, so that I can understand, because we all have our our challenges in life, and that's what I've always wondered too. Getting back to what you previous said, I've often wondered if the kids have often thought, he's got problems too, and they kind of admire that I do. I don't know. I mean, I've never really talked, a whole lot with kids about it, because we all want to hide it.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, and yeah, I just kind of one thing too. I will tell you guys, one trick of mine. I have a whistle here. You chew on this because it keeps your tongue out, so then you can talk. Seriously, try it.
Wow, go
Try it.
ahead.
Uh-huh.
Because when you chew on your whistle, you
Wow.
can kind of talk.
No,
It's a little
yeah.
trick here.
Yeah, yeah.
I picked up.
How much he charges for that trick? We can't tell
Well,
everybody about it. Be careful. Be careful when you do tricks out here.
yeah, I'll be selling that one of these days.
I'll sell you this whistle.
Yep, yep.
Um, so I'll tell you, um, I'm sure you're, not, I want to get outside of the football world for
No,
you and stuff
sure.
like that. I want to focus more on you as a stutterer.
Okay.
How has that been? How has that been for you? Like, with your family and all that.
Well, um, I think we all know. I mean, it's a thing. There's nothing. I think we all hate the word. Like, what? What'd you say? Or what's your first name? You just want to say, open up your damn ears. You know, there's that stuff. But it's been good. I mean, I remember when I was a sophomore in high school, and I wanted to, I had to give a presentation, and I remember my dad was just making me do it. But I had to really, one thing is, growing up, I mean, I always had that, you know, and this is nothing against the SLPs. And I always tell them that. But I was the kid where they knock on the door, okay, Rob speech, you got to get up and in front of 30 of your friends, and you have to go to speech. And you guys probably do this too. And
Yeah,
you
you're
got to
tricking
read
me
a,
out of pee.
well, yeah, and you got to read a sentence for the speech, therapist. Well, of course you're going to read it good because your guard goes down. You guys
Yeah,
all know that.
yeah.
That's the fit. And and then, but I really, where I really did well, on a personal note, my junior year of high school, um, I finally, and it's nothing against any female SOP. I finally got a male. I
Mhm.
had never had one.
Yeah,
And he'd go down and he'd tell me some, dirty, funny, dirty jokes, and we'd laugh. And he stuttered a little bit too. But, she really got me, kind of, kind of going. And then I sort of end up in that. But, my family's very supportive. I have a niece that's an SLP.
that's
She
awesome.
doesn't work with kids, but she works with geriatrics, and she's pretty cool too. her and I have had some pretty good talks. I've been trying to branch off a little bit and try to like to get a job with with an SLP working side by side, working with the mental aspect.
Mhm.
Because I think you guys understand this. The mental aspect is
It
so much
is.
bigger, and
Yes, sir.
and no offense against the SLPs, but they don't get it like we did when we were sitting in class in the third row and you're counting how many sentences and you're sweating, and you're thinking, do I get up and go to the bathroom right now? So I have to, you know what, guys, the worst day that I always hated in college, especially the grad school was I used to skip the first day because I hated introductions so much.
Uh,
And I used to always say, in 2 minutes, I'm not going to know what that guy's name. Why do I have to introduce myself?
yeah, yeah,
Because we all struggle with it. But big, a big hurdle that I did when I went to a college here in Michigan, called Grand Valley State University. And my last class, we had to stand up and to give a speech. I was, of course, things going well. I remember I went up and it was one of those days where you're just flowing, and I aced it. I got a complete A on it, and I was like, "Whoa, this is pretty cool." So that was a good moment, and probably one of my proudest moments. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. My dad died about a year and a half ago, and he was like my biggest fan as a coach. I mean, if I didn't call him every Saturday morning, if he wasn't at the game, boy, I'd get my butt chewed. Like, I'm waiting
for
for you.
sure.
And well, at his funeral, I got up and spoke, and and I just my my other siblings. I've got four other siblings, and they they had their chance. I mean, my sister and my brother did a little thing, but I did kind of the main thing up in front of everybody. I just my dad would have been extremely proud, and yeah, I stuttered a little bit, I think, but I didn't care. I wanted to talk about my hero, my
Yes,
dad.
sir.
Um, yeah, kind of just a little bit of a personal thing. Yeah, it's we all have our battles and our struggles with this thing. You guys know, and you just have to. I've just always just tried to. I knew I wanted to coach at a young age, and I just wasn't gonna let it hold me back. You know,
Love it. I love it. You mentioned something about your dad's funeral. My grandfather died about 2 years ago. It's something about when somebody has done something for you. You see what I mean? And you have a connection for it. It's like, hey, you know what? When there's a will, there's a way. And because you understand what they meant to you. You know what I mean?
yep,
My
exactly.
grandfather was like the, my grandmother was like the, those are the people that, when I say truly support you, because they seen your struggles. You know what I mean? They seen your goods, they seen your bads, and it's like, hey, this is what I want to pay tribute. So, like I say, I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you that you was able to give that. It's awesome.
Well, thank you. I
Sure.
appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, I believe I have a question. Let's see. Were there ever moments when your stutter made you want to quit, and what kept you going?
I don't know if it necessarily made me want to quit. I've probably I was never a head coach, and that's probably been why, because I knew that I was going to have to do a lot more, speaking and stuff. I think that it did hold me back from being a head coach. I'm not talking like the middle school head coach and stuff like that. I mean head varsity coach where I
Mhm.
ran my own show. It's probably I'm not gonna say probably. It did hold
Mhm.
me back. I never knew that I mean, I knew that I could do it, but I just wasn't like I just didn't want I don't know. I just didn't. That thing just always bothered me, and
Yeah.
that did hold me back. So that's why I've just always kind of stayed with the assistant role.
Hmm.
Um, and I am, but just as keeping me going, I've just these kids need us. I mean, whether I could
Hmm.
talk or not, these kids need me. I've coached very low poor inner city kids where I'm at now, and I've coached at a school which had a lot of wealthy kids, which and they're all the same. I mean, kids are kids. I don't care what anybody says. I will always say that. I
Yeah.
mean, they're all the same. And I've never been a bad kid. A couple of bad parents. No, I'm just kidding. But I've never met a bad kid. I mean, they all want to do well.
Definitely.
Even in my job now, I'm in charge of the disciplinarian of the school. So I'm not. I always tell everybody I'm the guy that's hated. So I'm sure these kids make fun of my speech.
No, but I'm pretty sure you being open to them when you're open to them, they do appreciate that, and they do see you as that role model of where they kind of get it from their house. And I'm sure you being open to them also makes them feel also comfortable with whatever issues they have going on. Because if you're being open with yourself, it shows those kids, okay, he's a football coach. He's doing this. He's speaking. He's being open about it. I could also be open with what issues I have going on, and I'm sure all those kids appreciate you in many ways you can't even imagine.
Sure. I've often wondered if when they're older, and then 25, 30 years old, probably talking about me,
For sure.
you ever heard, he talked funny, but man, I love that guy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. With the thing I was stuttering, and I've always heard this. I mean, we probably think it's worse than it is.
Hmm.
Actually, I know we do.
Yeah.
People don't care.
People don't
I
care.
mean, they might say, "Oh yeah, he talks a little bit different," but you know,
It's like you said earlier. Like, how you gonna remember that college student that's gonna talk the next 2 minutes?
right? Exactly.
So, like,
Introductions are the worst, guys, and I still have to deal
yeah.
with the job. And it
Oh,
drives
yeah.
drives me nuts, but whatever. You
But
know.
Rob, I just want to wrap this up.
Okay.
I just want to one last question. What's that one piece of advice you want to give to somebody that does stutter and who's looking to become a coach, a
Well,
coach?
I'm just gonna say, just you know, uh, number one is, I'm gonna say it is don't let it define you. Don't let it define you, and don't let it hold you back. That was kind of something that I got from my dad too. Was just don't let it hold you back. If that's what you want to do, I mean, that's what you want to do. You know, do what you want to do. I was at a thing, a few months ago. I didn't honoring to my father, and the Catholic priest got up to say the prayer, and he stuttered terribly. And I walked over to him, and I said, "You know what? God bless you." Just but that had to be hard. So yeah, just don't let it hold you back. I
Mhm.
mean, it's just, and I just, because it's out there, I think the world is more open to it now. I always tell people, I don't care where you are politically. President Biden did a lot. I mean, he really did. I
So,
mean, there's one thing on YouTube, guys. I don't know if you ever saw it when he spoke at one of the speech associations. And he talks about asking out a girl on a date and how it takes so much courage.
mhm.
I mean, with us, I mean, these wimps now, they send a text message.
Yeah.
When I see her, we had actually pick up the phone, you know, and ask the girl out as we're shaking and sweating,
Yeah.
and I mean, guys now send a text message or they're in a group chat, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I would just say, don't let it hold you back, and then just find what works. I mean, like I said, one thing for me is it's volume. Another thing that I use at times too is like even like a PowerPoint or something like a whiteboard, something that I've learned that anything that takes a distraction off of me. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? And then then they look at that. But yeah, I just, don't let it hold you back. It's easier said than done. And it's not saying that I haven't, missed out on speeches and I don't, nobody, the thing that always gets me, I know I'm rambling here a little bit, but people always talk about, oh, the number one thing that they hate. I had an SLP, and tell me this one time too, but the number one thing in the world that everybody hates is giving a public presentation. Well, try doing it to our shoes, right, guys? It's like, why do you hate giving a public? You can do it, you know. No, but no, yeah. So thank you though.
No, coach, I gotta say this, man, and this is no pressure to you, not trying to put no pressure on to you, but with your faith, with your humility, with your experience, I think we all have sometimes kind of put off necessarily truly like our desires, whether it's being an attorney. Mine is like an attorney, and now going through the police department, stopping that process, and it's giving me time to think. Okay, I need to not 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 settle, but go for what I really want. And it's like you got a wealth of knowledge, and you got a humility, and you got a perspective that a lot of coaches they just yell or they just going off of pride and
Uh-huh.
ego, and they can't really necessarily connect to the players. But you're able to connect with the players in a different way. So I say, if you do make that step, please let us know, because we need more coaches that look like actual people than people that's perfect that we can't touch. Like it's like we don't need those. And you're gonna inspire that ninth grader, that 10th grader, 11th grader, 12th grader. You know what I mean? Say do it.
I appreciate that, Brandon, very much. So, are you in law school?
So I'm not, but I give you this, and we've been vulnerable. Uh, I was in the process with the police academy down here. I finished the academy, and 3 months into probation because of I needed some more training, but the main thing that they said was my communication on the mic. Uh, so I had to resign because of it. Yeah, man. Um,
Right.
and granted, I still went through the academy, so I got my paper. Yeah, I mean, so I can go anywhere in the state of like Florida with it. But it's like one of those things where it was an opportunity. I put off law school because of hey, I'm gonna go for a bachelor's in criminal justice. I'm a master's in public administration, all because hey, the talking aspect. And now this break in between me necessarily all coming out the police department has really had me thinking, all right, Brian, don't settle. You know what I mean? And whatever you do, uh, be purposeful, but don't settle. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at right now.
That probably hurt though a little bit. I'm sure. Yeah,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But everything happens. Like I say, everything happens for a reason. You know what I mean? So,
absolutely,
yes, sir. Yes, sir. So,
absolutely. Well, good.
Yeah, so Rob, I appreciate you taking your time. I appreciate
Thank you.
sharing your story. A very inspiring story. I appreciate
Appreciate you
you,
guys.
of course.
Okay.